Good afternoon, everyone. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes,
And
we can hear.
all right. Firstly, good afternoon to everyone, to our guests and our panel of speakers, and welcome to the first Stokvel Academy online event. And then, if we have any questions during the webinar, could we please note them down, as we will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Thank you. We all know that Stokvels are an old age practice which has been around for generations and have helped a lot of people reach their dreams and their goals. The future of this practice is really unlimited. I mean, one thing that we have as Stokvel Academy, we have realized is that we need to drive more education within Stokvels in terms of incorporating technology and digitizing this old age practice. Hence, we decided to organize and host our first ever online event aimed at educating Stokvels and Stokvel members, post, current and previous, and those looking to join a Stokvel on the benefits of incorporating technology and digitizing the Stokvels. We have three phenomenal women who have extensive experience and knowledge within the financial industry and dealing with Stokvels. We have on our panel, as our panel of speakers today, on our panel we have Umambusi Kenjana, who has over 25 years experience within the working with Stokvels. Mambusi is also the founder and CEO of Stokvel Academy. Welcome, Mambusi. It's really an honor to have you with us today to share your knowledge and experience.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to a great historical session.
Thank you, Ma. And then we also have on our panel Palesa Lungolo, who is a financial literacy champion and the author of a great book that I recently got my hands on, titled Stokvels. Welcome, Palesa, and really pleased to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It is a great honor. I'm so excited to be in such a webinar for Stokvels and women in them.
All right, thank you, Palesa. And then lastly, we have the Group CEO of Donga Consulting, Marsha Hlongwa, a businesswoman with experience within the marketing and insurance industry. Welcome, Marsha. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's Marsha Hlongwa.
Hlongwa, sorry about that.
Yes. Thank you for inviting me. I look forward to the session. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, Marsha. Thank you again to everyone for joining us today. And we hope that you enjoy our event. A recording of the event will be shared to you probably before the end of the week. Just a quick reminder, can we all mute our microphones? And we'll have a question and Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So you'll get to ask our speakers any questions that you may have. Okay, let's just get right to it. So, Mambusi, what are some of the noticeable changes you've seen within Stokvels in the past 25 years? I mean, you've worked with Stokvels for over 25 years. So, what can you say has been something that you've seen a change, so to say, within Stokvels?
Stokvels are evolving, there's no doubt about it. If we look at the history of Stokvels, that they were started many years ago, I think more than 50 years now. And the sole purpose of Stokvels way back then was, funeral, in case of death, and then they would assist one another. But, they have evolved Stokvels into other things like investment, property investment, and they're also becoming modern. I wouldn't say younger, because Stokvels were started by young people. It's just that when we look at them now, we see the gogos and then we think that Stokvels are for gogos. The fact of the matter is younger women started Stokvels, you know. Yeah. So it's just that how it's just how they do things, which I suppose is relevant to our topic today in terms of technology and digitizing Stokvels. Yeah. But there's been a lot of movement, improvement, you know, doing things in a smarter way. Yeah.
Okay. And then, like you've mentioned, what do you think has changed in terms of technology? We understand that they're now moving with the times and they're modernizing the way of doing things. But what do you think has changed with regards to technology and how they just do the Stokvels?
This meeting is actually a change. It's one of the greatest changes that has ever happened. You know, as far as I recall, there's never been a Stokvel. I know Palisa has been active in other social platforms and Stokvels, but for me personally, it is change on its own that we have a Stokvel webinar. You know, I've just come out of a meeting now with one of our prospective clients, and I just allow me to share a phrase that I stole from that meeting. They say we are now moving from bricks to clicks. So Stokvels, I think, are moving from bricks to clicks. No more meetings in a house. So we'll be clicking, you know, as Stokvels to have our monthly meetings. Yeah. So there's no turning back, you know. We just have to embrace technology as Stokvel community, especially on our key 3 legs, which are our meetings, our savings discussions, our investment journey. You know, we just have to click, you know, as we walk through those journeys. Yeah.
Okay, great, interesting. And then what do you think can be done to make sure that we drive that change and incorporating technology? What do you think can be done to make sure that in the next 25 years we can look back and say this is how we did things and this is how we have changed?
I think it starts with the Stokvels themselves. They have to honestly and sincerely and review the way they've been doing things in the past. You know, like we all know, the most common one is the old-fashioned way of coming to a meeting and collect and putting money on the table. That should just disappear. You know, we can no longer. Of course, I mean, I know it's age-related. You know, so what needs to be done? We need to embrace technology. You know, try and you know, do things in a better way. Stop going to the bank to deposit money and withdraw money, come to the meeting and all that stuff. But I think Marcia is going to touch on this one as well. Protecting our wealth, because we keep on talking about wealth creation as Stokvels. But how do we protect that wealth, you know, in products like insurance and all that stuff, you know? So as we build wealth as Stokvels, we also need to be probing as to how can we actually protect this wealth? How can we grow this wealth smarter? That's where the likes of the Palisa comes in terms of, you know, investment and technology.
Okay, very interesting point, Ma. Before we move on to creating wealth and building wealth, and Marsha touching on that, Palisa, a question for you. We know that technology plays a major role in our lives, and the recent COVID pandemic has really shown us that as a country we are, how do I put it, we are really behind in terms of technology. And then like there's so much that we need to do. So can you just tell us and just give us, why do you think Stokvel are so relented to incorporating technology into the way they run Stokvels?
So I think for the longest time, it was really working also without any pressure of things like COVID-19 for Stokvels to operate the way they've been operating over the years. And it was really great. So there wasn't really like a big need of a quick transition to technology because it was really working well. So as the transformation was coming. It was coming much slower than your banks, for example, and it was much slower in terms of adopting and incorporating that into Stokvels, because, as I said, there wasn't really a pressure and it was really working well. People were used to it, and when people are used to it and comfortable of the way things have been happening and there was no problems, then it just became too stagnant. So when this era came of almost forcing everybody to go digital, it was like this transformation should have been much quicker, and there should have been also more options for Stokvels to be able to adapt to technology. So I don't think it was really a resistance. It's because of lack of opportunities for Stokvels actually to incorporate a technology into themselves. So we couldn't say somebody from a Stokvel must come up with a technology solution that will help Stokvels. Yes, they are there now, but they're also quite new. I don't know one that is, for example, that is 10 years old. So all of them they also came almost late, but at the same time right in time, because now we got hit by this COVID-19 where they became an option and almost a way of doing things. So I would say, as much as it was not a resistance, but it was more of availability of the chance of incorporating technology. Now that there is, and there'll be more solutions for Stokvels to incorporate technology into their Stokvels, it will be better.
Thank you. And then what do you think we need to do to make sure that Stokvels embrace this technology and they incorporate it into running their Stokvels?
Just like with everything else, what I've seen also in this COVID-19 and everybody going into technology, somehow, somewhere, everybody is getting some kind of adapting of it. Even if I'm used to technology, I've been working with technology all my life, but when it came to now I am forced to do everything technology, it took some kind of adoption. And I think also Stokvels should also adopt in that manner that okay, now it's here, let's adopt into it. But also the solutions that are coming up to help Stokvels to incorporate technology into their clubs should also be quite patient in holding their hands into getting into technology, and one step at a time, and then working like that. I'll make you an example of what used to happen when internet banking was new in the bank. I was an intern. For example, not everybody just jumped into saying, hey, we're all going to use internet banking, because it was technology, there were trust issues, there were other old illiterate people, there were old people, there were young people that couldn't use internet banking. But there was a designated person, for example, in a bank who would say, everybody that want to open an internet banking, here's a desk, here's a consultant specifically going to help you on how to open an internet banking bank account, or how to migrate your bank account into a thing and make them comfortable. And as you saw, everybody would come. There are not a lot of people that were keen on that. People still wanted to go stand in the line and do to a cashier. But eventually, because of the initiative that came from the bank itself to actually take the customer through the process of getting into internet banking, it became a norm thing. I think the same thing should happen with technology solution people. They should be taking the Stokvel member through the process of embodying them and showing them how it works. So almost also needs to educate them until they are comfortable into saying we're going everything technology within our Stokvel. Now then there can be even more opportunities within the technology and Stokvel industries.
Interesting. Thank you so much. And then Marshall, just a quick one for you. Stokvels are generally used for savings, grocery, burial, and you hardly see women using Stokvels to start a business. Why would you say we're not seeing more women using Stokvels to start businesses?
I think it starts with us, really, to be honest, to say, in the Stokvel, what was the reason behind setting up a Stokvel? Was it to protect members of the Stokvel against any financial loss? or was it to save money so that we can bury so and so? So your statement is quite to the point. But I want us to just change that a little bit and think about, are we even having those conversations with members of the Stokvel? That we can collaborate as a group of women to start something, consortiums. I belong to a consortium of all business, black female in insurance industry. And when we started this initiative, we had about 48 women that has brokerages that are interested in starting up businesses and actually contributing towards this consortium, because our sole idea was to pull our resources together to help each other grow our businesses. One, two, that you don't suffer back office needs when you have others in the team that have back office. When we eventually implemented this, we ended up with only 10 women.
Okay.
So even within the Stokvel, we need to then ask the questions to say, are we even having those conversations to help them understand that collaborating and actually putting our resources together can start something that can eventually take us to the next level. And the next level, we're talking financial strength, we're talking alleviation of poverty. Because, when Mambusi spoke, she said, Stokvels were started by young women back in the days. And as you know, women are naturally nurturers. We have a much bigger heart than we actually think. And our role has always been, we need to go out there to get something that is going to benefit the family. A woman works, earn money, and hardly ever earn it for herself because she's got a family to look after. So when women started things like these, they started it to try and get as much financial relief as possible, whether I've got X amount of money or I've got very little amount of money. So Stokvels were really started to help a woman to sort of bring that comfort and that security around the children, around the home. We build homes, and unfortunately building a home doesn't mean getting pregnant, having children every day, but it means you need to feed those children, you need to clean that house, you need to have curtains, and all of those things revolve around money. Feeding a child is about money. So when we then see a lot of women not actually coming to the party when it comes to Stokvel models, we need to ask ourselves, what information are we actually sharing? And what as Stokvel Academy we're bringing onto the table to our members to show them certain steps they can take to get to that level. So more than anything, it starts with having to understand what was Stokvel started for, and what kind of information are we actually letting flow within Stokvels to build them, or to sort of to mold the conversation towards starting businesses. And taking into account, not everyone is a business person. I mean, I started my business when I was 18. I was selling Burabos rolls at school. My mom is actually here, Patience. I invited her to come and listen in because she was part of a Stokvel before. So it's when people get together, they may get together buying into a vision that works for them. However, it doesn't make them business people. So there's the very first start that we have to focus on is to then have these conversations with these women to say, out of the group or different groups of Stokvels that we have, how many of them are actually into business? What type of business do they have? Have you chosen the model or the vision for that particular business? So it's going to really take us, what Palisa was saying, it's going to take us to invest our time and information into our communities for these conversations to start making sense. She spoke about when internet banking came. I mean, my dad struggled to this day. He still does he prefers his banking done at a bank. It's only, I think, from last year that he actually started using internet banking. And he's enjoying it because it saves him time, it saves him frustration of standing in queues. But it needed to take the bank to start introducing the concept of internet banking to members that are non-internet bankers. So just like with Stokvel, we need to start having conversations about business in our Stokvel groups, perhaps even have a generic conversation template of some sort, where it's going to allow women to start engaging in discussions around business When those are happening, then we need to start, because you need to own your conversation as the Stokvel Academy. You are standing in for that. Bringing changes into the Stokvel. So you need to be owning those conversations and saying, in our next newsletter, we are going to now start talking about businesses. How do we start businesses? Why do we start businesses? What type of businesses? Right now with COVID, everything is online. Everything. I mean, even seeing your parents in lockdown level 4 and 5 was on this platform. So now, everybody's going to be running towards an electronic platform for every single thing. Selling tomatoes is going to be ordered online. Selling suits is going to be done online. Every single thing is going to be done online. How versed are the members of society right now to even use online platforms? And what, as the Stokvel Academy, are we doing to bring those things forth, to say, we are not doing things the way we used to do them anymore. And the way that is recognized right now is technology. How do we contribute to bringing technology conversations onto the table so that our members can actually start embracing? Yeah.
Wow, Masha, thank you so much for that. Really, really informative. But before we close it off, we saw Amanda. Amanda had her hand up. Amanda, hello. Do you have a question? Amanda? All right. We have a few seconds. We can take some questions. Do you have anyone with any questions?
Just like to comment, not a question really.
Yes.
If I may, yeah. And just to say, to back up what Masha has alluded to now, in terms of Stokvel and business and collaboration. Funny enough, if you think about the Stokvel movement, it's about women coming together to do things together. But there seems to have been a gap, Masha, where we don't actually utilize that togetherness to actually build something bigger like a business. Like you mentioned in your industry, you are a group of women, who are in this consortium of brokers. And it's through conversations like this where we should actually say, we've already started, it's because we wouldn't be sitting here talking Stokvel if there wasn't something great about Stokvel. But we seem to be stuck in terms of taking it to a higher level. The same analogy of technology, like Palisa said, we seem to be resistant to change. We still want to do things the old-fashioned way. So we need to actually get stakeholders like banks, financial institutions, to help us loosen up a bit, so that we can embrace technology.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. This was a really informative session, and as we mentioned at the beginning, we will send you a recording of the session, and we will also send you contact details of all our speakers. So if you have any questions, you can either send us your questions and then we'll forward them to the relevant speaker, or you can just get in contact with the speaker themselves. And we hope that you enjoyed our webinar and that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.